The metal corridors of the alien research vessel Seeker gleamed under bright white lights as Captain Tom Reed walked beside the tall, blue-skinned alien scientist. Reed couldn't help but notice how the alien moved with an almost floating grace, its four arms carefully adjusting various instruments hanging from its silvery belt. "We are most grateful for Earth's cooperation, Captain," the alien said, its translator making the words sound almost musical. "I am lead researcher Blue, and my team has studied thousands of worlds. But yours is quite unique." Reed nodded politely, though something in Blue's tone made him uneasy. He had been chosen for this job because of his experience with both military and wildlife operations, but these aliens, the Watchers, as they called themselves, seemed to dismiss every warning he tried to give them. The corridor opened into a massive observation room. Through its crystal-clear windows, Earth hung like a blue jewel against the darkness of space. 5 more Watchers stood there, their silvery instruments pointed at the planet below. "Such a primitive biosphere," one of them said, adjusting something that looked like a telescope. "The life forms are so basic." Reed cleared his throat. "With all due respect, our planet's wildlife is anything but basic. We've learned to live alongside them. But—" Blue raised one of his 4 hands, cutting Reed off. "Captain, please. We have studied worlds where the smallest predator could swallow your largest terrestrial animal whole. Compared to those, your wildlife is quite quaint." The other Watchers made a sound that their translators turned into polite laughter. Reed felt his face grow warm, but he kept his voice steady. "Then why come here at all?" "Scientific thoroughness," Blue replied. "Every world, no matter how simple, deserves to be cataloged. Besides, we find it fascinating how your species has become dominant despite your obvious technological limitations." A light flashed on one of the alien instruments, drawing everyone's attention. One of the younger Watchers rushed forward, excitement clear in its movements. "Lead researcher, we've detected several fascinating specimens in the region humans call Australia. The venom compounds are unlike anything in our database." Blue moved to examine the readings, all 4 arms working different controls. "Interesting, though the delivery mechanisms seem quite primitive. Captain Reed, we would like to begin our collection mission in this region." Reed stepped forward quickly. "Collection? Nobody said anything about collecting specimens. I must strongly advise against." "Your concern is noted, Captain." Blue interrupted again, but unnecessary. "Our containment technology is centuries ahead of anything Earth has developed. These simple creatures pose no threat to us." The other Watchers had already started preparing their equipment, pulling out floating containers and energy fields that hummed with power. Reed watched them, remembering all too well his years as a wildlife ranger in Australia before joining the Earth Defense Force. He had seen what those simple creatures could do. "At least let me brief your collection teams on proper safety protocols." Reed tried one last time. "Some of these animals—" "Captain," Blue said, now showing signs of irritation, "we appreciate Earth's hospitality, but please understand, we have handled creatures that could destroy entire cities. Your wildlife, while charming, is hardly a concern for our technology." Reed fell silent, watching as the Watchers prepared their expedition. He noticed how their protective suits seemed designed for large predators, tough and sturdy, but with joints that a snake could easily strike through. Their containment fields hummed with power that would stop a charging rhino, but would do nothing against a box jellyfish's microscopic stingers. The humans had offered to help with the specimen collection, but the Watchers had refused, calling it too dangerous for such a developing species. The irony would have made Reed laugh if he wasn't so worried about what was about to happen. As the first collection team prepared to teleport down to Australia, Reed made one final attempt. "Please, just be careful with the inland taipans. They're faster than—" "Your concern is touching, Captain," Blue said, patting Reed's shoulder with one of his lower arms. "But I assure you, we have everything under control." Now shall we observe the collection from here? I'm sure it will be quite educational for you." Reed nodded silently and took his place at the observation window. He had tried his best to warn them. Now all he could do was watch and wait for the chaos he knew was coming. Sometimes, he thought, the only way to learn respect for nature was to get badly hurt by it. He just hoped the Watchers would survive their lesson. The holographic display in the Seeker's main chamber flickered to life, showing a three-dimensional map of Earth. Blue moved his four arms in practice motions, zooming in on different regions while the other Watchers gathered around. Captain Reed stood at the back of the room, arms crossed, watching them plan their zoo with growing concern. "We'll need at least 3 specimens of each species," Blue announced, his translator making the words echo slightly in the chamber. "The containment facilities on our homeworld are already being prepared. Imagine, the first Earth zoo in the galaxy." One of the younger Watchers raised a hand. "But lead researcher, what about the human warnings?" They seem quite concerned about these creatures. Blue made a dismissive gesture with his upper right arm. "Humans are naturally cautious. They lack our advanced containment technologies. Besides, look at these creatures." He pulled up an image of a box jellyfish floating in crystal blue waters. "Their primitive nervous systems can hardly pose a challenge to our neural suppression fields." Reed stepped forward, unable to stay quiet any longer. "That jellyfish can kill a human in under 3 minutes. Its venom is one of the most complex chemical compounds on our planet." The Watchers turned to look at him, their large eyes blinking in what seemed like amusement. "Captain," Blue said patiently, "we understand your species has struggled with these life forms, but our containment systems can handle creatures 10 times the size of your largest predator." "Size isn't everything," Reed muttered, but the aliens had already turned back to their planning. Another hologram appeared, showing a honey badger tearing into a beehive. "This small mammal seems particularly entertaining," one of the Watchers noted. "Perfect for the children's section of our zoo." Reed couldn't help but laugh, drawing surprised looks from the aliens. "Sorry," he said, not feeling sorry at all, "but putting a honey badger in a children's section, that's not a good idea." Blue sighed, all 4 arms moving in what Reed had learned was a gesture of patience wearing thin. "Captain, please. We've contained creatures that breathe plasma. Surely you don't think this small furry animal poses any real challenge." Before Reed could respond, alarms started blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed as a voice spoke in the Watchers' musical language. Blue rushed to a control panel, his movements suddenly less graceful. "The advance team," he said, his translator struggling to keep up with his rapid speech. "They've begun their collection attempt in Australia. They've found an inland taipan nest and, oh." The main screen switched to a live feed. 3 Watchers in protective suits were backing away from what looked like a simple brown snake. One of them was clutching their arm, their suit showing a tiny puncture hole. "Impossible," Blue whispered. "Our suits are designed to withstand the fangs of creatures 10 times that size." "Size isn't the issue," Reed said, moving closer. "Inland taipans don't need size. They're the most venomous land snake on Earth. Their venom evolved to kill warm-blooded prey quickly. 1 bite contains enough venom to kill 100 humans." The injured Watcher on the screen suddenly collapsed. The others tried to help, but a second snake appeared from nowhere, striking faster than their eyes could follow. The feed cut out. Silence fell in the control room. Blue's hands moved rapidly over the controls, his earlier confidence gone. "We need to evacuate that team immediately." "And, Captain Reed?" "Yes. Perhaps we should review those safety protocols you mentioned, and maybe reconsider some of our collection targets." Reed nodded, hiding his grim satisfaction. "We should probably start with the basics, like why collecting honey badgers for a children's zoo might not be the best idea." The Watchers gathered around him now, their earlier dismissiveness replaced by nervous attention. On the screen behind them, the warning lights continued to flash as the rescue team prepared to retrieve their fallen colleagues. It was just the beginning, Reed knew. If they thought the taipans were bad, Wait until they tried to collect their first box jellyfish. Let's begin with a simple rule, Reed said, addressing the now attentive aliens. On Earth, the most dangerous creatures aren't usually the biggest ones. They're the ones that had to get creative to survive. 3 days after the inland Tappan incident, the mood aboard the Seeker had changed dramatically. The injured watchers were stable but still recovering in the medical bay, their advanced healing technology struggling to neutralize the snake's venom. Blue had spent those days redesigning their collection protocols, and now he stood before his team with what he believed was a perfect plan. The new suits are completely sealed, he explained, displaying the upgraded protection systems. No gaps, no joints, and reinforced with energy fields specifically calibrated for small, fast-moving creatures. Captain Reed watched from his usual spot, noting how the watchers no longer dismissed his presence. They even glanced his way occasionally, as if checking for his reaction. The first taste of Earth's wildlife had taught them some humility, but not enough. We've also improved our detection systems, Blue continued, his 4 arms moving through the holographic display. Nothing larger than a microscopic particle can touch these suits without triggering an alarm. This time, we are prepared. What's the target? One of the watchers asked, nervously adjusting their equipment. Another inland Tappan, Blue answered. We cannot return home without at least one specimen. Our reputation. Your reputation isn't worth dying for, Reed interrupted. The room fell silent, but he continued anyway. At least try something less dangerous first. Test your new equipment on something that won't kill you in 30 minutes. Blue's skin turned a deeper shade of blue. What Reed had learned was their equivalent of a blush. Captain, while we appreciate your concern, we have corrected our previous errors. Our pride requires we succeed where we first failed. Reed sighed. Pride is what got your people bit in the first place. But the watchers had made up their minds. The new collection team, wearing their upgraded suits, prepared for teleportation. This time, they chose a different location in Australia, a rocky area where their sensors had detected a single Tappan. Reed watched the mission through the ship's monitors, along with Blue and the rest of the command team. The collection team moved with exaggerated caution now, their suits humming with protective energy. They spotted the snake basking on a rock. It was smaller than the ones they'd encountered before, which seemed to boost their confidence. The team leader activated their capture field, a sphere of energy designed to gently contain the creature. The Tappan moved. Even with their advanced sensors and improved reaction times, the watchers barely saw it happen. One moment the snake was on the rock. The next it had struck the team leader's suit 3 times. The energy field sparked but held, an improvement over last time. See, Blue said proudly. The suits work. The snake cannot penetrate. An alarm blared. On the screen, the team leader's suit was reporting a microscopic breach. The snake's fangs, while unable to properly penetrate the suit, had left particles of venom on the surface. Those particles were slowly eating through the protective layers like acid. Impossible, Blue whispered. The molecular structure of our suits is being dissolved by venom that evolved to digest prey from the inside out. Reed finished. That's why we told you not to underestimate them. Nature had millions of years to perfect these weapons. The team rushed to teleport back before the suit failed completely. In the chaos, nobody noticed the snake slithering into the temporary equipment storage they'd set up on the surface. By the time they realized some of their most expensive scanning equipment was missing, it was too late. Back on the ship, Reed helped the shaken collection team out of their suits. The team leader's suit had held, barely, but the experience had left them visibly rattled. I don't understand, Blue said, examining the damaged suit. We prepared for everything. Speed, strength, size, but not persistence, Reed explained. Earth's creatures don't just kill with one trick. They've got backup plans for their backup plans. That Tappan didn't just try to bite through the suit. When that failed, its venom started eating through it instead. The Watchers gathered around the ruined suit, their earlier scientific detachment replaced by something closer to fear. Blue looked at Reed with all four hands clasped in a gesture of respect. "Perhaps," he said slowly, "we should listen more carefully to your warnings about the next species on our list." Reed nodded. "The honey badgers. Trust me, you're going to want to hear this. Because if you think the snakes are bad," he smiled grimly, "well, let's just say there's a reason even lions leave honey badgers alone." The African sun beat down on the Watchers collection team as they set up their newest containment field. After the Tapen disasters, they had spent a week redesigning their equipment. Now, surrounded by layers of energy barriers and wearing suits thick enough to stop a rocket, they felt ready to face Earth's wildlife again. In the Seeker's observation room, Captain Reed watched the preparation with Blue and the command team. The aliens had finally started taking his advice, but they still didn't quite understand what they were dealing with. "The honey badger is small," Blue said, checking the readings. "Our scans show limited intelligence, no venom, and no special abilities. This should be simple." Reed rubbed his forehead. "Did you look up why they're called honey badgers? About how they raid beehives for fun, how they fight off lions?" "Captain," Blue replied, his confidence somewhat restored after the new equipment upgrades, "while we respect your input, surely you're exaggerating. Our scanners show they're just small mammals." On the screen, the collection team had spotted their target. A single honey badger was digging near their perimeter, seemingly unaware of their presence. The team activated their containment field, creating a dome of energy around the area. The honey badger looked up, sniffed the air, and then did something that made Reed groan. It started digging. "What's it doing?" one of the Watchers asked. "Why doesn't it try to escape?" "It's not trying to escape," Reed said. "It's trying to get under your barrier." Blue scoffed. "Impossible. The field extends 10 feet into the ground. No animal cooled." An alarm blared. Somehow, in the few minutes they'd been talking, the honey badger had tunneled deep enough to find a weak point in the field. But instead of escaping, it had circled back up, appearing inside the Watchers' equipment area. "Fascinating," Blue muttered, watching as the creature methodically began examining their tools. "It shows problem-solving abilities we didn't expect. You might want to stop it before." Reed started, but it was too late. The honey badger had found the power supply for the containment field. It wasn't trying to break it. Instead, it seemed to be studying how the parts connected. With movements that seemed almost deliberate, it began pulling wires. That's impossible," Blue whispered. "It's dismantling our technology." But our scans showed limited intelligence. The containment field flickered and died. The collection team rushed to activate their backup systems, but the honey badger was already moving. It charged straight at the nearest Watcher, who activated their personal shield, the same kind that had eventually stopped the Tapen. The honey badger bounced off the shield, rolled, and immediately began digging again. The Watcher relaxed, thinking they were safe behind their barrier. Then the ground collapsed under their feet. "Did it just?" Blue couldn't finish the sentence. "Create a trap by undermining the ground under your team member?" "Yes," Reed said. "Honey badgers are strong, but they're also smart. They learn, they plan, and most importantly, they never, ever give up." The fallen Watchers scrambled up, only to find the honey badger had already stolen their scanner. The creature wasn't running away with its prize, though. Instead, it was methodically taking the device apart, examining each piece before discarding it. "It's learning about our technology," one of the Watchers said, horror creeping into their translated voice. "It's not just trying to escape or fight, it's gathering intelligence." The situation deteriorated quickly after that. The honey badger, having learned about their equipment from the stolen scanner, began targeting specific weak points in their defenses. It dug holes that disrupted their sensor fields, created decoy tunnels to waste their time, and at one point seemed to be herding the team toward what looked suspiciously like a trap it had prepared. "Abort mission," Blue finally ordered, his forearms moving in agitated patterns. "Get the team out of there before." A second honey badger appeared at the edge of the operation zone. Then a third. The first honey badger had been making enough noise to attract its friends. "Full retreat," Blue amended quickly. "Recover what equipment you can and teleport back immediately." As the team scrambled to salvage what they could, Reed watched the honey badgers systematically dismantling everything the Watchers left behind. They weren't just destroying it. They were studying it, learning from it. "You know what's really scary?" Reed said to Blue. "These aren't even our most dangerous animals. They're just the ones that like to play with their food first." The waters off the Australian coast sparkled under the morning sun as the Watchers prepared for their next collection attempt. After the honey badger fiasco, they had completely redesigned their approach. No more land operations. Water seemed safer. After all, how dangerous could a transparent blob of jelly be? "The box jellyfish is mostly water," Blue explained to his team aboard their underwater collection vessel. "Our new aquatic containment systems are designed to handle creatures 10 times its mass. This time, we cannot fail." Captain Reed watched from the support ship above, communicating through the Watchers' advanced holographic systems. "You really should reconsider this," he said, watching the alien scientists adjust their equipment. "Box jellies aren't like other jellyfish." "We understand your concern," Blue replied, his translator making the words ripple like water. "But our suits are now completely sealed, our force fields are waterproof, and our sensors can track anything larger than a grain of sand. We are prepared." Reed shook his head. "You're still thinking about size. These creatures don't need to be big toe." An excited cry from one of the Watchers cut him off. They had spotted their first box jellyfish, its nearly transparent body barely visible in the clear water. It looked harmless, floating there like a plastic bag in the breeze. The collection team moved in with their new containment field. This one was special, designed to keep water creatures in their natural environment while safely transporting them. The field hummed to life, creating a perfect bubble around the jellyfish. "Success!" Blue exclaimed. "You see, Captain, sometimes the simple approach is best. Now we just need tow." The jellyfish moved, not the lazy drift they expected, but a purposeful pulse of its bell. It shot through the water with surprising speed, its tentacles trailing behind it like deadly ribbons. The containment field followed, keeping it enclosed, but something was wrong. "The sensors are having trouble tracking it," one of the Watchers reported. "It's too transparent. The field is responding to delayed data." "Adjust for transparency," Blue ordered. "Increase the field strength and..." "Multiple contacts." Another Watcher shouted. "We're detecting more jellies. They're all around us." The water had come alive with box jellyfish, their nearly invisible bodies catching the sunlight like glass sculptures. The collection team found themselves surrounded, their sensors struggling to track the creature's movements. "Fascinating," Blue said, his scientific curiosity overtaking his caution. "They appear to be exhibiting coordinated movement patterns, but our data suggested they were solitary hunters." "They are," Reed confirmed, "which means either you're very unlucky or we've entered their breeding grounds." Blue finished, his voice suddenly less confident. "Captain, perhaps we should." The first scream came from the rear of the collection vessel. One of the Watchers had been checking the external sensors when a tentacle brushed against their suit. It was just a tiny touch, barely noticeable, but enough for the microscopic stingers to fire. "Suit breach," the Watcher cried. "But how? The material is stronger than..." "Their stingers are designed to punch through jellyfish shells," Reed explained quickly. "Your suits might as well be tissue paper to them. Get out of there, now." But retreat proved difficult. The box jellies had surrounded the vessel, their tentacles creating a near-invisible web of death. Every movement risked contact, and the Watchers' advanced sensors were almost useless against creatures that were 95% water. More alarms sounded as 2 more Watchers reported stings, Their medical systems were registering unprecedented neurotoxin levels, and their protective fields were useless against creatures that could slip through gaps smaller than a human hair. Emergency teleport, Blue ordered, finally abandoning any pretense of scientific collection. Get us out of these waters. The vessel vanished in a flash of energy, reappearing next to the support ship. As the medical team rushed to treat the stun watchers, Reed watched Blue slump in his command chair, all four arms hanging limply. You didn't even see the really dangerous ones, Reed said quietly. Those were just the small box jellies. The big ones. Well, let's just say there's a reason we don't swim in these waters during certain seasons. Blue looked at him, his large eyes reflecting a new understanding of Earth's oceans. Captain, he said slowly, I believe we need to seriously reconsider our classification of Earth's wildlife. And perhaps we should discuss what other surprises your planet might be hiding. In the Seeker's medical bay, the injured watchers floated in healing tanks while Blue reviewed their mission data. 3 weeks had passed since their first collection attempt, and they had nothing to show for it except damaged equipment, injured crew members, and a growing sense of unease about Earth's wildlife. Captain Reed stood nearby, watching as Blue's 4 arms moved through holographic displays, showing their encounters with the tapins, honey badgers, and box jellyfish. The alien scientist had been unusually quiet since their last disaster. I don't understand, Blue finally said, his translator making his confusion sound almost musical. We've visited worlds with active volcanoes, acid lakes, and predators the size of your buildings. How is it that Earth's small creatures have defeated our best technology? Reed walked over to one of the healing tanks, where a watcher still showed marks from the box jellyfish encounter. Maybe that's exactly why you're having trouble. You're used to obvious dangers. Big teeth, strong muscles, clear threats. Earth's wildlife had to get creative to survive. Creative. Blue turned all 4 arms palm up, a gesture of questioning. They're animals. Simple creatures driven by instinct. Are they? Reed pulled up the footage of the honey badger dismantling their equipment. Look at this again. Really look. That's not just instinct. That's problem solving. And the tapin. It didn't just try to bite through your suit. When that failed, its venom started dissolving it instead. Blue watched the footage, his large eyes blinking rapidly. But our scans showed limited intelligence. Basic venom compounds. Your scans were looking for the wrong things, Reed explained. You were measuring them against the creatures you know. But Earth's wildlife evolved differently. They had to compete with each other, adapt, find new ways to survive. The door slid open as another watcher rushed in, carrying a data tablet. Lead researcher, we've finished analyzing the box jellyfish venom. It's not like anything we've seen before. Blue took the tablet, his movements suddenly energetic. This can't be right. The molecular structure, it's changing, adapting to the victim's biological makeup. That's how they hunt, Reed said. Their venom doesn't just kill, it learns. Every creature on Earth that survived had to become more than just big or strong. They had to become smart, adaptable, persistent. Blue set down the tablet, looking out the medical bay window at Earth floating below. We thought we were studying a primitive world, he said quietly. But we weren't studying primitive life at all, were we? We were studying the survivors of millions of years of brutal competition. Now you're getting it. Reed nodded. Those creatures you tried to collect, they're not just animals. They're the champions of Earth's evolution. The ones that found ways to survive no matter what. The injured watcher in the healing tank stirred, their translator weakly carrying their words. The honey badger, it wasn't just fighting us. It was learning about us, studying us. That's right, Reed confirmed. And the Typans, they didn't just strike randomly. They targeted the weakest points in your suits. Even the box jellies, creatures you thought were simple blobs of water, turned out to be perfect killing machines. Blue moved to the window, his reflection showing an expression Reed had never seen before. We came here thinking we would study primitive life forms, the alien scientists said. Instead, we found artists of survival, each one a masterpiece of adaptation. And now you understand why humans are the way we are, Reed added. We didn't become Earth's dominant species because we were the strongest or fastest. We survived because we learned from everything around us. Every creature on this planet taught us something about survival. The medical bay fell silent as the watchers absorbed this revelation. Outside, Earth continued its slow spin, its oceans and continents hiding countless more creatures just as deadly, just as clever, just as perfectly adapted as the ones they'd encountered. Captain, Blue finally said, turning from the window, I believe we owe your species an apology. And perhaps we should be studying how humans learn to survive among such remarkable creatures, rather than trying to capture them. Reed smiled. That's the first sensible thing you've said since you got here. But fair warning, understanding humans might be even harder than catching honey badgers. The grand hall of the Galactic Science Council buzzed with excited whispers as Blue stood before the assembled alien representatives. His four arms moved gracefully through the holographic displays, showing footage from their Earth expedition. Captain Reed stood beside him, the only human ever invited to address the council. Honored members, Blue began, his translator carrying his voice across the vast chamber. I come before you to propose an unprecedented reclassification of the planet Earth and its indigenous species. The council leader, a tall crystalline being, leaned forward. Your preliminary report was disturbing, lead researcher. Surely you don't mean to suggest that such a technologically young world deserves a Class X designation. I do, Blue replied firmly. And after viewing our evidence, I believe you will agree. He gestured to his still-healing teammates in the audience. We went to Earth expecting to find simple creatures for our zoos. Instead, we found masters of survival that challenged everything we thought we knew about evolution. The holographic display showed their encounters, the inland taipan striking with impossible speed and precision, the honey badger systematically dismantling their advanced technology, the box jellyfish turning their protective suits into useless barriers. But these are such small creatures, one council member objected. Surely they cannot compare to the plasma-breathing giants of the Nexus worlds or the living mountains of Cronus. Reed stepped forward. Size isn't everything, he said, his words echoing in the chamber. Earth's creatures didn't need to be big. They needed to be clever, adaptable, and absolutely relentless. Blue nodded, bringing up new data streams. Look at these venom compounds, more complex than our most advanced bioweapons. These problem-solving patterns, matching our highest metrics for tactical intelligence. These survival strategies, more sophisticated than anything we've seen on 100 worlds. The council chambers filled with murmurs as the evidence mounted. Blue continued, his confidence growing. We thought we were studying primitive life forms. Instead, we found ourselves facing the end products of millions of years of intense competition. Every creature we encountered had not just survived, but mastered their environment in ways we never imagined possible. And the humans? The crystalline council leader asked. How do they fit into this? Reed smiled as Blue brought up footage of human cities, of people living and working alongside nature. We evolved among these creatures, Reed explained. Everything we are, everything we've become, was shaped by sharing our world with Earth's most lethal inhabitants. We didn't just survive them, we learned from them. Which brings us to our final recommendation, Blue said, straightening to his full height. Earth should not only be classified as a Class X death world, but also as a protected heritage site. Its ecosystem represents something unique in the galaxy, a crucible of evolution that produced not just deadly creatures, but true artists of survival. The council chamber erupted in discussion. Never before had such a young civilization's world received such a high classification. But as they reviewed the evidence, the failed collection attempts, the ingenious defenses of even the smallest creatures, the remarkable adaptability of Earth's life forms, the decision became clear. Motion carried. The council leader announced, their crystalline form shimmering. Earth is hereby classified as a Class X protected world. All collection attempts are banned. Instead, we will establish learning centers where our scientists can study how such remarkable creatures evolved. From a safe distance, of course. As the council dispersed, Blue turned to Reed. I owe you an apology, Captain. We came to your world thinking we were superior, that our technology made us masters of any creature we encountered. We were wrong. Reed shook his head. No apology needed. Sometimes the only way to learn respect is to earn a few scars in the process. Though I have to admit, I'm curious what you'll tell the zoo visitors who were expecting to see Earth's wildlife. Blue's translator made his laughter sound like chiming bells. We're setting up virtual exhibits instead. Much safer that way. Though I must admit, the honey badger display comes with quite a few warning labels. Just wait until they hear about the platypus. Reed grinned. Now there's an animal that proves Earth's creatures have a sense of humor too. As they left the council chamber, Blue looked at the holographic image of Earth one last time. You know, Captain, in all our explorations, we've never found another world quite like yours. A planet where the deadliest creatures aren't the biggest or strongest, but the ones that never, ever give up. That's Earth for you, Reed nodded. It's not about being the biggest or the strongest. It's about being clever enough to survive anything the universe throws at you, and maybe, just maybe, having a bit of fun while you're at it.